That's my shoe. Thank you very much. That's good enough for now. And so what I'll do is I'll charade it out. If you think you know the answer, just blurt it out, okay? All right? I'm looking up to you to lead the pack, the leader of the pack here, okay? Wolves. You have wolves here?
Yes.
You actually do?
Yeah.
Coyotes?
No,
Really? Only wolves? What happened to the coyotes? You got beaten up by the wolves?
yeah, foxes and wolves.
Oh, yes. Okay. Here we go. The Supreme Personality of Godhead
Krishna.
is always full of six opulences, namely complete, complete strength, complete
Humble.
fame,
Klein.
complete, complete, okay, and complete.
Renunciation.
Very good. The Lord appears in different complete eternal forms of incarnation. The conditioned soul has immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities. Where you have to go, right?
Yes, Mars. So,
It's so nice to we'll see you somewhere along the line.
maybe even in the airport.
Maybe in
In
there,
the airport.
or some canal. All right.
Great.
The conditioned soul has immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord in these different incarnations. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Janma karma chame divyam. The past times and activities of the Lord are not material.
Dancing.
There we go. Okay, they are beyond the material conception, but the conditioned soul can benefit by hearing such uncommon activities. Hearing is an opportunity for the British here to associate with the Lord. To hear his activities is to evolve to the transcendental nature simply by hearing. The conditioned soul has a natural aptitude to hear something about other conditioned souls in the form of fiction, drama, and novel. That inclination to hear something about others may be utilized in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Then, one can immediately evolve to his transcendental nature. Krishna's positions or pastimes are not only beautiful, they are also very pleasing to the mind. If someone takes advantage of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, the material
desires, the
material
Substance.
Contamination. Mostly for you. Contamination of dust accumulated in the heart due to long association with material nature can be immediately cleansed. Lord also instructed that simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination. There are different processes for self realization. But the process of devotional service, of which hearing is the most important function, when adopted by any conditioned soul, will automatically cleanse him of the material. Very good. All right, and enable him to realize his real constitutional position. Conditional life is due to this contamination only. You got it. Only. This is only. And as soon as it is cleared off, then naturally the dormant function of the living entity, rendering service to the Lord. Oh, wait, good. Very good. It's the most understood. Sometimes the fill up or shadow fall on the floor. Okay, by developing his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, one becomes eligible to create friendship with the devotees. Maharaj Parikshit recommended from practical experience that everyone try to hear about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This Krishna treatise is meant for that purpose, and the reader may take advantage in yeah, we're in the courtroom. Okay, and take advantage in order to attain the ultimate goal of human life. Okay. We're doing good so far. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy for you, descends on this material world and displays his activities just like an ordinary man. We're not confused in this. Unfortunately, the impious entities or the atheistic class of men consider Krishna to be an ordinary man like themselves, and
thread, string, thread,
Sewing.
needle, stitch.
so. All right. Stretch your imagination. I lost my spot now. Okay, let's see if we can find it again. Okay, when Krishna grew up a little more, he began to turn himself backside up. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for being nice and late.
We are 1.5 hours on the way.
Oh, really? Traffic jam. Oh. Did you curse the traffic? I imagine that swearing in Dutch is really something. Okay, he did not merely lie on his back. And another function was observed by Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Krishna's first birthday, they arranged for Krishna's birthday ceremony, which is still observed by all followers of the Vedic principles. Krishna's birthday ceremony is observed in India by all Hindus, irrespective of different sectarian views. All the coward men and women were invited to participate, and they arrived in jubilation. A nice band played, and the people assembled enjoyed it. All the learned Brahmins were
Welcome.
Invited. Yes, invited to participate. And they arrived in jubilation. A nice band played, They chanted Vedic hymns for the good fortune of During the chanting of the Vedic hymns and playing of the bands, Krishna was bathed by Mother Yashoda. Now you know this is. This bathing ceremony is technically called Abhishek. And even to
Today.
today, this is observed in all the temples of Vrindavan as Janmashtami Day or the birthday anniversary of Lord Krishna. Very good. We're doing it. Is it fun? We're giving full attention. On this occasion, Mother Yashoda arranged to distribute a large quantity of grains and the first class decorated with golden ornaments and were made ready to be given in charity to the learned, respectable ladies. No, this is a lady. Brown. If you have a better idea, let me know. Okay, Yashoda took her
Shower.
her
Shower. Bath.
bath. Very good.
Oh.
Okay, and she dressed herself nicely, perhaps that's that word. And taking child Krishna, and duly dressed and bathed on her lap, she sat down to hear the Vedic hymns chanted by the Brahmins. And while listening to the chanting of the Vedic hymns, the child appeared to be falling asleep. And therefore, Mother Yashoda was very silently laying him on the bed, being before engaged. Okay, now Alright. Okay, being engaged in receiving all the friends, relatives, and residents of Vrindavan on that holy occasion, she forgot to feed the child. Yeah. Okay. He was crying, being hungry, but Mother Yashoda could not hear him cry because of the various noises. The child was unable to do so, and his eyes popped out from their sockets. Wait a minute, we really skipped that whole book. 2 pages, you know how that works. Okay, here we go. The child, however, became angry because he was hungry, and his mother was not paying attention. Thank you. Couple's supposed to. So he lifted his legs and began to kick his lotus feet just like an ordinary child. Baby has been placed underneath a hand-driven cart, and while he was kicking his legs, he accidentally touched the wheel of the cart, and it collapsed. Very good. That's right. Various kinds of utensils and brass and metal dishes had been piled up in the band or in, better do that one again. Various kinds of utensils and brass and metal dishes had been piled up in the hand cart. And they all fell with a great
Sound.
noise. All right. All the men and women who were assembled for the holy function crowded around and began to suggest how the cart might have collapsed. So that collapsed. No one could ascertain the cause, but some small children who were Krishna's, who were entrusted to play with baby Krishna, informed the crowd that it was due to Krishna striking his feet against the wheel. They assured the crowd that they had seen how it happened with their own eyes. And they strongly asserted asserted the point. Some were listening to the statement of the small children, but others said, how can you believe the statement of these children? The coward men and women could not understand that the all-powerful personality of Godhead was lying there as a baby. And let's see, and he could do anything, both the possible and impossible were in the 15, were in his power. While the discussion was going on, baby Krishna cried, and without remonstration, Mother Yashoda picked the child
Up.
on her
Lap.
and called the learned Brahmins to chant the holy Vedic hymns to counteract the evil spirits. At the same time, she allowed the baby to suck her milk. If a child sucks the mother's breast nicely, it is to be understood that he is out of all danger. After that, all the stronger coward men put the broken cart in order. And all the scattered things were set up nicely as before. The Brahmins thereafter began to offer oblations to the sacrificial fire with yogurt, butter, pusha grass, and water. They worshiped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the good fortune of the child. Hare Krishna. And that's what we'll do for now. Okay, that's a beautiful pastime. We didn't even get into it, to be honest. All right, good. So, I'll just take a little something to drink here. I go to South Africa every year, and the Afrikaans went there. The Dutch went there. They took the Dutch language, it got a little distorted. Anything that's okay, they lekker. Yeah, I grew up in the Dutch household. Actually, it was my first language, Dutch. English came later. And then we learned a little French in school. And so when I went to school, I was a little bit intimidated because, these are all new kids. And they didn't mostly come from a Dutch background, so it was very different. I was a little bit of a shy kid. And, but eventually I got over my shyness, and Krishna consciousness did it for me. I was 20 years of age at that time. I was actually searching for a life meaning in love. What is life's purpose? And so I was looking through Christ. That was my best reference as to the truth. I wanted to be part of the truth. I wanted to find myself. So a good thing about being lost is you can find yourself. Okay? So many of us are a little bit of the lost territory category. I guess as if you don't have enough, right? And it was the time of life when counterculture was very strong. Our youths of that age, we were looking for a meaning, a deeper meaning in life. So those of us who got in touch with the devotees were very lucky with that situation. And it was very redeeming to meet with the devotees. I was trying to find Christ and real Christians, but I found it in the devotees. They were the ones that seemed to, practice what they preached. And so I was very satisfied, very relieved that it was like this. And the other people that I decided to join, I was taking a fine arts course, and I had some devotees that came into the city where I was, where they mine nickel, the metal nickel. Yeah, it's like a nickel capital of the world. And I went to college there, they had a nice fine arts course. So I had already met devotees twice before, brief encounters, read the Back to Godhead magazine, and now they came to my college, like 5 of them, shaven-headed and everything, looking very from another planet, you know what I mean? And so I met them on the street, said, well, what are you guys doing? Said, I was quite liberal. And I said, well, we're here just to share Krishna consciousness. I said, are you staying anywhere tonight? So we've been staying in the basement of a church, but I don't think we have that option tonight. Why don't you stay with me? So they stayed with me, and I had a chance to be with them, spend a whole, let's say, a whole night. Got up in the morning, went through a whole morning program, and that was really fun. And Vivi Govinda Swami, his name was the Yogapati at the time, one of the 5 gents that traveled. And he wrote to me, Krishna was attracted by the flute, or the gopis attracted by the flute of Krishna. So he read that to me, and when he did, I thought, well, this is a great story. Whoever made this up, they're very poetical. Yes, and we got it more. We had a big breakfast, like devotees eat lots of food at breakfast. You ever had that experience? Have you ever had an experience where you're in a temple, that's everyone eats like well? That's the best way I can explain it. Well, meaning like bottomless. And I learned to be vegetarian from that point on. And then I spent the next few days or months reading, and while doing my fine arts course, I was doing quite well with the fine arts course. I took enough time to read. I thought that was very important for me. I want to do that more than anything. I want to be content with myself. And frankly, being an artist, pursuing that, I didn't think I wanted to be a starving artist. What are the chances, I didn't want to follow the ways of Van Gogh or somebody like that. So I met the devotees, and then I started to chant on the beads. I asked for beads, they sent me the beads during those days of snail mail. And we also, I sent a question, it was pushing me. What is the purpose of Maya? Everybody knows Maya. You've heard of her before. And I sent a letter, what is the purpose of Maya? And the letter came back to me and said, the purpose of Maya is to protect Krishna from those who are not sincere. So I thought that was such a nice answer. To protect Krishna. Krishna needs protection. To protect Krishna from those who are not sincere. But what I got from that is that we're supposed to be sincere, I guess. Sincerity means to be honest with yourself. To be truthful that way. And so that was good, and I decided after some time I would just join the temple. I had 1 month left to complete my first year. But the pressing to be with Krishna and his devotees was the calling was so great. And I knew Krishna had in mind for me to do something different, to be different. and not to follow the regular pattern, the same routine that everybody else is. I'm looking at so all the lonely people, you know the song for the Beatles, all the lonely people, where do they all come from? You know, so you wonder, why is it that people are feeling lonely, and why are they feeling angry, and why are they not happy? I want to be happy, and I didn't want to follow them, so I met the devotees, and they were, you know, a monastic group. They were all single at the time. I think I can relate to that. I can relate to get up early in the morning and singing songs and hymns. I was quite a strong Catholic, and I used to go to church before I went to school of my own volition. I just like Jesus was such a cool dude, and he stood for peace and, you know, control of the senses and all that. And I liked being in church. It was just a quiet place before going into the schoolyard where kids are. You know, kids are like, you know, noisy and, you know, like part bully or, you know, a little bit not nice to each other. The competitiveness was okay, but there are certain elements that are not okay. You know, it's like we're raising kids, and it's not much you can do to change that dynamic about kids growing up. Anyways, I decided to join the temple. I told my parents we're strong Catholics. Oh, really? Why do you want to do that? You've got a perfect religion. I said, well, Dad, you know, I mean, really, I'm just going to try it out, you know, and I still believe in God, you know. So many years later, when I started my first walk, I was in London, Ontario. I told you a little bit about London. Okay. It's getting a dairy in his nose. He's very kind. Berlin, you're good. So many years later, I was walking through London, Ontario. They did an article said, I'm still a Catholic. You know, my parents were so happy about that because they thought I had left Catholicism to be a Krishna follower. And it's not in the scope of most people's minds that, well, you can actually be a Christian and a Krishnan at the same time. You know, like can you do that? They said, yes, you can do that. And so my parents got very happy about that. And then we were on a TV show with Vision Television Network. I was regularly on a show, TV show that went, first of all, every week. And we couldn't afford the weekly, so we got monthly. But, you know, they'd see the show and that I was the host, oftentimes the interviewer, and that's my son. So they were proud of me. Also, when I joined, they were trying to make a clear statement. Catholics don't deal with the Bible so much. They have their own books. But once I became a devotee, they decided to buy a big Bible that you put on the coffee table and to let everybody know this is what we believe in. So I got the message. And after some years, they accepted. Well, I'm happier than many of my peers. You know, many of my peers were not being so successful in their marriage relationships, and some were getting into drugs. And you know, my dad especially figured out, well, at least my son, young John, is very happy. Whereas his contemporaries weren't so happy. So he's happy for me. He was happy for me. And when I started the first walk across Canada, which I then completed, he was kind of on his way out physically. I remember seeing him in the hospital the last time I saw him in Chatham, Ontario, where I was born. And the nurse came in and said, this is my son, he's my oldest, and he's the strongest man in the world. He just said that because I'm walking across the country. So he's just like a proud dad speaking like that. And, you know, so he came to join me on the first walk for a little bit. He was okay at that time, physically okay at that time. Let's see, if I was, 43, He would be, yeah, he was in his late 50s when he joined me for a bit on the walk. And we walked through Memory Lane, you know, the area where I grew up. And so that was heart, you know, kind of heart-wrenching to have that kind of thing. My dad was Dutch, as I mentioned, and he was always into flowers. He had a green thumb. Anything he grew, it just grew. He just had that. He was gifted, you know, karmically, you know, gifted like that. So I remember him. I thought that we were never very close, but I understood everything that I was close to him in another way, in a cultural way, because he was the one that introduced me to God. You know, I didn't know it was Krishna at the time, and he was just a very moral person. You know, and my parents went through incredible hardship. The Depression times and Second World War. It was very hard. And people had to stay, and they had to watch the Nazis would come in, and they'd take the men and imprison them if you didn't follow the Third Reich, or you didn't follow the Nazi, you know, program, agenda. And in fact, where my dad grew up, that's near Quince Hale, to my knowledge, and they had a house that was really tight, because you could not tell, there was like a facade wall. You could get in there, and the men, because the Nazis were after the men, not the men. So the men would be, you know, kind of shimmy their way into bed at night like this. And the Nazis did them. They couldn't see that there was another room, a very narrow room. You know, from the outside, you would not know anyone from the inside. Yeah, so those were tough times, but because they were tough times, it made that generation an amazing, resilient kind of generation of people. They went through hell. So my connection with the Netherlands is always my parents, of course, and having been here before, you know, people are on bicycles, windmills, the ladies wear these things, and the men wear the klompen, you know. And also a connection to the war, you know, my dad would tell stories. We were so intrigued, you know, because where we grew up, there was a countryside, it was Canada, very free and liberal, you know, fair, and you had all that you needed, you know. When we heard about it, people were very stifled and very oppressed, you know, for 5 years. You know, it was a very difficult time. You know, we all went through this tsunami, COVID, when everyone was saying, COVID, and we're supposed to say COVID. You know, that was quite an interesting time, wasn't it? Yeah, well, that was nothing compared to what people had to go through in the war. Yeah, your neighbors would be missing. You know, people, they'd be picked up and they'd be gone. So people lived in fear. There was a lot of fear. There's nothing wrong with living in fear, but fear for God, and not fear for any other ideology. You know, it's okay to live in a little fear, guilt, because it keeps you in line. If there's no fear, if we remove some of that, let's say, rigidity that people went through, then people do all kinds of nonsense, right? In fact, what preceded the, after the First World War, we had the Roaring Twenties. You all heard about that? It was a wild time. Those people were just going absolutely wild, you know, with the partying and all this kind of stuff. What followed after that was the dirty 30s. You know, like karmically, you know, people were having a very difficult time. The depression, the stock market crash, and then if you lived in North America at that time, there was the amazing Dust Bowl. All the topsoil on the fertile land was being removed, so farmers were having a real tough time. growing, veggies so to feed themselves and grains. So it was very difficult. And then the war came in after that. So after the war was over, there was an incredible, golden period from 45 to about 65. And we were called the baby boomers. Because at that time, people had been separated, husbands and wives were not together. Now the war was over, they were very much getting together, and they were very much, churning out babies like anything. We called the baby boom. And so I came in that period. And it was a kind of special time. You could, everyone had a mother and a father. I'm talking about a man and a woman. And you had a brother and a sister. And like in our case, we had like 6 of us siblings all together. And you had a cat and a dog. And you had a house and a car. And the house, you could probably pay off the mortgage in a short amount of time. Those days, you could pick up a house for $20,000. Can you imagine? Things have changed so much. And so that sort of brings us to the point of, like my little background, for whatever it's worth. I have no regrets joining Krishna consciousness. I've enjoyed it every step of the way. And sometimes there were ups and downs. There was never a dull moment of living in a temple. Never. There were all kinds of interesting things that went on. And devotees were very bold and daring. We would do all kinds of things to get people to take to Krishna consciousness. And we worked really hard. We really did. We put a lot of time and effort to make Krishna consciousness work. And so many of us lived in temples, and we looked after the deities, and we started life membership programs. Different initiatives took place. A lot of the devotees who were thinking, I'll be a brahmachari for my whole life, that changed very quickly. Or brahmachari being a single woman or a single man living in one of our temples. So that adjusted. Everyone got babies, and that sort of the preoccupation was more in maintaining family. So we lost a lot of people during that time. And we lost a lot of people after the We lost a lot of people at that time because things have become a power struggle after Prabhupada's demise. Who's really running the show? So some people who were approved by letters to be gurus, they decided to establish an acharya board, which defied the GBC guru, the committee that manages the program. So that was a real tough time. And then we had to deal with that, the GBC members, and to dethrone some of those people. So that usually happens. One bona fides to being a successful religious organization is there will be struggle when the leader leaves. There will be confusion. That's exactly what happened. Now the worst is behind us. We're doing okay. We can do better. We can step up a little better. But we're doing all right. And I've seen all the ups and downs. I've seen the valleys and I've seen the mountaintops. And it was very interesting how it all evolved. Yeah, so those are some of the points. Does anybody have any questions or in regards to my little story? I can tell you where we're at right now. Prabhu, you had a question, right?
No, I was thinking, you mentioned something about the windmills and everything, but you forgot to mention the famous cheese from Holland.
Oh, Kamina Kaas. Yeah, because we knew that I never liked Kamina Kaas. I thought it was really
Gouda kaas, Gouda.
What's that?
Gouda, de
Goudse kaas.
Goudse kaas.
Goudse kaas.
Gouda cheese.
Oh, good.
So we can next time.
Oh. You know, I guess the Cuban was a new taste, and you know the Europeans were really intrigued with Indian spicy. When ginger came from India, gingerbread, you know, to cook cookies and stuff like that. Tea, the Indians started tea, the British took it up with greater power. There was all these amazing cultural things that happened. Yes.
Maharaj, she has a question.
Maharaj, could you share about your encounters with Srila Prabhupada?
There's not too much to say. When I joined, I didn't see Prabhupada for 2 years after I joined. You know, I joined in 73, and I saw him in 75. Physically, I saw him in Atlanta. You know how the top down there, you know, Atlanta, Georgia. And, but we were always reading his books. There were no other books, right? And we were listening to his voice on tape recorder. We were also, you know, seeing some film footage of him. Pictures were coming out. We were so mad about him. He was our everything. You know, so meeting Prabhupada was interesting. It wasn't such a surprise for me because they already felt peace with him. And then I did see him in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was playing Verdunga for us at the time. And he was teaching a song. He was singing about the two lords, Chaitanya and Nityananda, so he was teaching us that. And of course we get all fired up by being written and singing personally, but I never had a chance to really talk to him, but I did communicate. I felt I was being communicated to by him through the devotees, through the senior devotees. Those were my mentors, the administrators group. I understood you want to please Prabhupada, you please them. They understood that in the beginning. Another thing is, I was part of a brahmachari traveling party, and I volunteered to be the cook. So when I came to Atlanta, the head cook at the temple came out and I said, "Is anybody here?" This temple period. Anybody here would like to cook something for Prabhupada? And I slowly put my hand up. Okay, you're coming with me. And it's the first doll I ever made. You know, and I made it for him. I was really scared to ask him how was it Prabhupada. I was scared that I would be rejected. Probably if I had a chance. And because I was asked recently, what are my favorite books, you know, and the books that I like the most are anything to do with Prabhupada, anything about his life, whether it's Yamuna as the author, or Guru Das, or Shamsundar, Satsuru. Those are my favorite books. I just love hearing about them. They're, you know, focusing on one person. It's really helpful. Yeah. So anyways, those are some points. Does anybody else have any? Yeah.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
I think Mataji asked first.
No, you ask.
Yeah,
Thanks. Thank you, Maharaj, for keeping it very interactive and a nice talk and sharing your things. Maharaj, actually, if I see in South India now, because of your background, I would like to ask this question. Because in South India, if I see now, like majority of the, not majority, like at least in big proportion, people are like preaching Christianity there. And but the preaching what they do is not actually the real thing what even Jesus said. I'm not sure what Jesus actually told. But what do you say, like that whatever Jesus has told is true or something, or what these guys are preaching, what they are actually passing, is it right or wrong, or what do you
Well, I
comment
don't
on
know
this?
what they're saying to the people.
Like they can do like, yeah, it can be solved immediately, they can cure your diseases immediately, very in a very magical way they preach it in South India actually now. It's going very widely there.
Yes, yes, that's right.
And also there are different versions of books, like if you see in our books, like it's all the same, it's coming with the parampara, and you take any Bhagavad Gita from any author, it consists of only 700 verses. But if you see in Christianity, it keeps changing the chapters, and we don't know about that. So what do you state on that?
My thoughts are on it that, yeah, it's too bad that
Yeah.
people are having to, look elsewhere outside of Krishna consciousness or Hindu culture. It just should, what it should do for us is, what it does for me, is to, I feel like we've got to pick up, we got to start building our temples more, we got to be more active with our Sankirtan book distribution, and get our prasadam out there, like fight with them, in a sense, and I don't think there's any other way to go about doing it, build, grow, and it's too bad people are quite gullible, so they take to, say like, something like Christianity, and without going through the thorough study of it all. But it's going on, and I know that a lot of the tribal folks are being converted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happening in places like Guyana, Suriname, where I go to as well. But, one thing that's a consolation, here in the West, which was traditionally more Christian, we're going more Eastern. There's just a lot of people going to Buddhism and Hinduism, native spiritualism.
Yeah.
So it's a little tit for tat. And now with so many immigrants coming into places like the Western world, it just means that the diaspora is such that it's going to affect the population positively. So while we might hear of things going on over in India where they're making quite a conquest, we are doing something in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, and what can I say? We have to work hard. We have to really work hard to kind of catch up. Is that okay?
Maharaj, first of all, thank you for being here today, and our apologies that we came in late. Maharaj, just want to ask you, I don't know if the question will make some sense, but what keeps you going on, Maharaj, daily? Like, you're so long in the movement, and I can imagine, of course not you, but people like us, at one point, everything can become routine and monotonous. And
Yeah, this is my 52nd year.
sorry for my ignorant question, but what keeps you going on each
What
day?
keeps you going? It's fun. It's fun, and it's logical. Everything makes sense to me, and I love the fact that we sing and we dance. So that's all our lifestyle, and be happy and be optimistic. That's what keeps me going. And what keeps me going too is to see people advance, and making progress in life. This also makes me very satisfied to see that we've got families, people having children who are Christian conscious. So I see we're making progress while we're losing a few elements of hope. We are also gaining some at the same time. I remember meeting a fellow there up in 1974, man. He was the Sudbury, he was new, and he saw us going there every day to have a morning program. It was summertime. And he said, why did you leave Christianity? And I didn't answer him, but in my mind saying, well, why not? Because there's an assumption if you got white skin, you should be Christian. And I was ready to say to him, well, listen, you've converted all these brown people to be Christians, you know. What's the problem? It's just this one white guy trying to convert, you know, white folks to think Eastern. Well, that's the story. Who else had one?
So my question is, what you said that devotees were very bold at that time. So what were some of the bold things that you saw them do or that you did?
Well, to put many hours into the Sankirtan, for instance, even the cost of your health sometimes, you know, we were bold. There was get into shopping malls and airports and distribute books without permits. I also, recently I had trouble. I was going to Florida from Toronto, and after I did my fingerprint was this kind of weird. So I went to this special area, and they didn't explain what the problem was, but, you know, so I was trying to go for Nexus to get Nexus status, so when I go to airports I can zip through, you know, the line very fast. And when I approached them for a Nexus status, he said, "Have you ever been arrested before?" And I said, "Well, yes. You know, in the early days we did missionary work, and I got arrested in North Carolina, 2 other people, and so they have that on record now." So I mean, we'd go into a town and we didn't have permits, but we just stood at the books. And they're kind of okay with it. They want you to just, they want you to get a permit. So those are some of the bold things that we did. And then, you know, sleeping in a tent, roughing it out, having a morning program together, what we normally do, and then working hard all day. And there's some devotees who are more daring. The Americans are always more bold and, you know, ready to do something heroic. And we Canadians are just a little behind them. We're not sure what's going to happen to them. Let's keep an eye. Yeah, if I give some more thought to it, I can probably explain some of the more bold things that we did. Anyways, walking across Canada is no easy task. But that was part of the early days. That was more recent, 25 years ago. Anybody else?
Yeah. It's not a question, Maharaj, but a request. Like maybe if you could share anything, like from maybe it's from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or it's your personal experience when you visited some dham in India. Anything you would like to share? Yeah.
About like being in a holy dham and
Yeah.
some realization. The first time I went to India was 1978, and by the Radha Mohan temple, there was an older man, and he was crawling, you know, up the ramp, and there were kids playing around. And, I looked at him very closely. You know, so one woman, she came, the older lady, she said something in Hindi. She just went like this. She had the gentleman had a shudder, and he was lying there. He was dying. Flies were buzzing around him, so she just shuddered and just went like this. And I could see before she did that he had beads in his hand. And the kids were around there. They were just playing, like normal. Like they were. It wasn't like a major concern when nobody called 911. It was just part of life, you know. And he was on his way to this older gentleman, and I just thought this is so amazing. And the kids are trained from the beginning to be in an environment where you understand. Like it's very fragile. Do what you can. Make sure you're with God before you go. And that's what the impression was. again, the kids were giggling. I'm making fun of you on that. We're just playing normal. This is the way life is. But here in the West, everything's tucked away. We can't see a dead person. You can only see them through Hollywood movies. After they got their bodies, like 50 bullets in their body. Isn't it? We tuck everything away. You know the story of Buddha. There's this prince. You never see, so sheltered, you never saw an older person, a diseased person, like a poor person, and he's so flabbergasted. The family went outside the house, and he decided to, be spiritual. He saw that death, old age, disease, birth, happening to people. So I think that we live in a culture we shouldn't shy away so much, to tuck everything away like we put our old folks. Put them in a home and we'll come once in a while. Christmas time. Give them something shiny to look at. We're not very publicly willing to, show the world that there is something beautiful out there, lessons to be learned. So I think that impacted me very much, being in Vrindavan, and see this, having this image.
Thank you.
Really, he was just kind of calling to hear the enough with no strength left.
Thank you.
No, in the West, when you see someone like, get the sirens going, fire department, this department, that department, and they'll come, we have to help this man. They're very efficient about these things. But they pay no attention to the soul of what the person is trying to do. Of course, rarely do you see anybody. You wouldn't get that in Europe when you see somebody in the room chanting the names of God. And what's that? Right. Answer the question, okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. What's the next part of the program? Manger?
Yeah.
Okay. Lekker. I think it's a good idea. I want to thank you very much all for coming and listening. Really appreciate it. I'm sorry if our little boy that didn't participate. I put too much pressure on him. Is he still around?
He's upstairs now.
Oh, nice. Having a blast.
Oh, you came long life.
Hey!
There is.
Here you are.
Go in. Shy.
Thank you for check out the The jet lag is really hitting me. We want to thank everyone for dancing earlier. I thought